Hi there, CycleCamp here, and today I have a pretty interesting little pistol for you. It's another firearm that I purchased for my collection, and it ended up being a lot more interesting than I had really thought it was going to be. It was kind of an impulse buy. I got it off a gun broker, and but I want to talk to you a little about it today. So what we're looking at today is a French model 1935A pistol. The French 1935A is a semi-automatic pistol. It's chambered in 7.65 French long, which is almost impossible to find, so I won't be shooting this anytime real soon. It is a single stack design. It holds 8+1. The 1935A was designed by Petter, who applied for the patent originally in 1934 and was granted the patent in 1935. And in fact, Petter has both French and American patents on this particular 1935A model pistol. The pistol was accepted by the French military in 1937, prior to the start of World War II, and it was put in service as the model 1935A. The 35A was heavily influenced by Browning's 1911, but the 35A design was simplified or improved, and we'll see that when we open her up. But things we'll be looking at is the barrel bushing in the front was removed. There is a full-length guide rod, which you will see, and the elimination of the barrel bushing and the use of a full-length guide rod actually improved accuracy and reliability. There were also two swinging leaks on the back of the barrel, and we'll take a look at those when we take it apart. And they enclose a drilled tab on the end of the guide rod. There's a magazine interlock, so the firearm cannot be fired without the magazine installed. There's also a small safety lever on the top of the slide, and this is in the safe position now. Pretty weird. It's not too hard to reach with your finger if you're holding it, but it's not real convenient. So that's another feature of the firearm. There is also an empty chamber indicator on the top of the firearm. So right now that being in the up position indicates that the chamber is empty, and if there was a round inside, it would lay flat like that. So you can see here. See, it's up now, and if you had something in the chamber, it would lay flat. And I think there's supposed to be a little white dot painted on the back of it, but that has since rubbed off. This empty chamber indicator, however, is not part of the original patent designs, and it's believed that this was requested by the French military during the 1937 trials when they were looking for a new semi-automatic sidearm. The 1938 35A pistol also has an integrated fire control system, and that fire control system so impressed SIG that SIG actually licensed that design in 1937. SIG used this to produce the SP-47/8, which evolved into the P210, which is arguably the finest military pistol ever made. The total production in 1935 was only 84,950 guns, so there's not a whole hell of a lot of these running around. The serial numbers all follow the same pattern of a cursive letter followed by 4 digits and then the letter capital letter A. My serial number, as you can see from this picture, that's actually a C. I know it's hard to read, but this cursive letter right here is a C, 3531A, and SACM is the name of the company in France that produced these pistols. Okay. Let me see. During the French occupation, there were 23,850 model 1935s made for the Nazis. The Nazis captured the Sachem foundry in October in October of 1940, and the guns were produced between October 15th, 1940, and April 28th, 1944. Serial numbers from B1251 to D4550 were inspected by Waffenamt 251, and most guns do not have the Waffenamt stamp, right? I'm getting too much into the journey. But if you'll notice, this thing that looks like a smudge here, this is actually the Waffenamt stamp. Now, I don't know if I can get this to show up, but there is, you can just barely make out the 2.5. The 2.5 is pretty easy to see, and then the 1 just starts to go over into where they messed up the finish to put the stamp on. And there's a W, it's a W, a small A, and a large A, 251. And that's fairly unusual. That's pretty unusual to actually have that stamp on the firearm. Most guns don't have the Waffen stamp, but this particular pistol does. You'll also find the Nazi eagle and swastika stamped on the barrel, and we'll see that later on when we take it apart. And so this firearm is a little unusual because it has some of those stampings. Also, a war era firearm will not have the lanyard loop. There's no lanyard loop on this pistol. Lanyard loops were added after the fact for police use, and basically what they would do is cut the grip down, and then they would stake a small rectangular loop in there for them to use for police use. In addition, the bottom of the magazine plate, if it's a war era, if it's pre-war or a war era gun, there will be no markings on the bottom of the plate, and we'll take a look at that a little later on also. Post-war guns have stamps on the base plate of the magazine, and the lack of stamping on the bottom of the magazine plate is also considered kind of rare. Now, most 35s have a gray parkerized finish, and then they took a black enamel, so it looks like paint, but it's actually a black enamel finish. And some people call it varnish, some people call it enamel, I'm not sure. And this was called Parkolak, Parkolak, for, I guess, lack of a better word. The grips on the original 35A were actually made of black bakelite, so unfortunately this does not have the original period grips. However, the gun feels incredibly good on the hand. It has a rounded butt, and it's got a nice beaver tail, and it just feels fabulous in the hand. I can't wait to actually find some ammunition and shoot this thing because it really feels really great. So even though these grips are incorrect for the period, they feel really good in the hand. So let's take a little closer look at the firearm and take it apart and show you what's inside. So as you can see from the where the finish is worn off, it looks like a paint, but it's actually an enamel, and underneath this is a parkerized coating. And this firearm is not in fabulous shape. It has a few dings in it, but overall, the fact that it has, a lot of people would take this and they would get rid of this finish entirely and take it back down to its regular gray parkerizing, which I think kind of ruins what little value there is in the gun. So I was really glad to see that this had the original parkerizing. The fact that we have the Waffen stamp, the Waffen stamp, is pretty neat on this particular firearm. So we've got the wood grips. I showed you the safety already. This is the safety on it, and you can cock it, but you cannot fire. Well, wait a minute. Oh, I'm sorry. This is it blocks the firing pin, so you can pull the trigger and the hammer will fall, but it will not set the round off. So anyway, so that's what's going on with that. And we showed you the serial number, which is pretty low, 3531. Now these were made in lots of 10,000. So the first 10,000 had the A, and then the second 10,000 had the B, and the third 10,000 had the C. And they would go up from 0, 1 to 99.99, and then the A is on all of them. This little A mark is on all of them. And all of that stuff. So let's pop the mag out. The standard magazine release button on the side. And this is where you can actually see what the undercoating of the gun looks like. So this is the gray parkerized finish that the rest of the gun is actually made with, and they parkerize the magazines as well. And if we look at the bottom, you'll see it's got that hard black finish on it, like the rest of the firearm, and you'll notice that there are no markings on this plate. This plate is just perfectly flat. So that's pretty unusual and pretty neat. Again, it's a single stack, 8 rounds in the magazine, 1 in the pipe, so it's an 8 plus 1, 8 round. And this is double action only. Sorry, I'll say that again. This is single action only. You have to, just like a 1911, you have to pull the hammer in order to get it to go. So we talked about the sag sides and the no stamping. So let's take it down. It's fairly straightforward to take down. So basically, I'm going to cock it to make it a little easier to pull back. And then you push out, just like similar to a 1911, you push out the that little piece, and now you just slide it off. Now, as we said before, there's no barrel bushing on this. There's no bushing on here at all, and this has a full-sized guide rod. And if we look at it, we'll see the guide rod actually has a pin on the end of it, and that hole nestles between the two lugs. This barrel has two lugs on it, not one. It's got two independent lugs, and of course this guide rod fits in between them, and then this pin, slides right through the whole mess and keeps it all locked together. So a pretty ingenious design. I don't know how fragile that was. I mean, they seem to be in pretty good shape. They're not very loose or anything. But anyway, so that's pretty cool. The other thing that we wanted to show was, and I know this is going to be hard to see again, so let me try this guy. But if you look really hard, you can see the eagle, the Nazi eagle, with the swastika in a circle underneath, and that's stamped onto the barrel. And the guns that were made for the Germans, they would also take and put, if I can find it, I think it's here someplace. Hold on a minute. There should be a spot on here where it has the last two digits of the serial number stamped on the barrel. I thought it was on there, or maybe it was a slide. But in any event, any place I've found a serial number, it's been oh yeah, it's a slide. I'm sorry. So everything that I have found has the correct serial number, so it looks like it's parts matching so far. So here if you look at the slide, here inside the slide, you'll see the 31. That's the last two digits of the serial number. So all in all, it's a pretty neat little gun. It's not I haven't cleaned it yet, but even though I haven't cleaned it, you can see it's got fairly good grooves, and it doesn't appear, it's not real shiny because I haven't cleaned it, but it's not covered with crud, and there's no rust in it at all either. So there's no rusting or pitting or anything on that. So I felt pretty good about it. I was pretty happy to find it and pick it up. So again, you drop that down. It's very easy to disassemble and reassemble. Again, it uses the slide cuts, very similar to a Browning design, and all pretty neat. So we match that up. Plug that in. Just got to take it back just a little bit in order to finish putting it in. There we go. And you can see without the magazine, it is disconnected. That you cannot fire the hammer without the magazine being in place. So a very interesting gun. It's got some great provenance. This is actually a World War II era gun. This was a gun that was made in the Sachem factory for the Nazis, and it was probably made sometime between 1940 and 1944. And since this is a C series, I would expect it was probably right in the middle of that mess. So it was probably like 42-ish, 43-ish, right in there. So that was the gun I wanted to show you today. Another interesting add to the collection. I may try to find a set of original Bakelite grips, or a set of fake replacements from my grip guys that I've been dealing with. And if I do, and if I find some ammunition for it, I will definitely be taking this out to shoot it, and I will make another video. But this is the Petter 1935A, based on the Browning design and precursor to the SIG P210. Interesting gun. Thanks a lot for watching, and have a great afternoon.